Welcome back to Tools and Track, everybody. In this episode we are brought to you by the Shaman, because these are good. These are more specifically chassis outriggers. What you'll notice here is I've actually flipped the chassis upside down. So, sitting in what would be the driver's seat if we just rolled the car, you'll see that all of the body pickup points for the outriggers sit on these little brackets here. When we put these brackets on, they're not going to have any holes drilled, obviously because these get done by a guy in the factory at Blackpool with a drill. So they're never going to match from car to car. Now, for the ones in the back, that's easy enough, they do sit under the seats. However, these four at the front are going to be tricky because they sit right in the guts of the driver and the passenger footwells. And I don't know if you've ever looked inside your TVR or any other one, a lot of space in there. So I'd quite like to have these pre-drilled before they go back on the car. Now, how do we do that if we need the geometry to be correct? We're going to make a jig. I've just unboxed the new steel outrigger kit. So this is how it looks on the car. Now, I will stipulate, obviously these are back to front, but I just wanted to mirror them on to see how the geometry lines up. And if we all look very carefully, you will see the front and the rear spar will be kinking up. I think the centre spar is actually level. So I'm going to do a wee bit of measurement and just check this. Now, that would kind of scupper any chance I've got of a jig making sense. However, it does actually give us a bit of a golden ticket, because if these are kinked, it means that I don't have to worry about whether it's going to sit level, because it's going to tripod onto the frame, if that makes sense. So that slight gap will actually allow this to ensure that when it's butted against these flat, that geometry height will be completely level. We will not be able to tripod off of these spars because, and I'm quite glad the kit has this, look at the sheer amount of weldy angle nonsense going on at the back, and the spars that come with it don't actually have these cuts. Obviously that's chamfered for welding onto here, which is sensible, but the backs come with these. So what we'll do is chop, run a sleeve in, and then weld the two of these together. Now that's actually quite good because these aren't really rotten up the top, and I don't think we'll have any problems with that. It's just going to be deciding where to put the cut, where to notch these to match, and make sure it's all level. The problem with that is we will not be triangulating off of this because that measurement is going to be down to meter cut. So we will still need to make sure that whatever the offset from this to here is correct. If it's too far off, we're going to end up bending the body when we torque it on. If it's too far up, it's never actually going to land the bolts in the centre. I can go with the trust that this 3-bar offset is going to work, and I think it will to an extent. I think we'll also belt and braces this. The axle stands here are not going to move for the whole duration of this welding process, and if we were to perhaps construct some form of spar that goes from the ground and picks up and points, we'll know we've got the height right off of the old chassis to the new one. So in order to do that, we're going to need some wood. And if we're going to need some wood, I'm going to need to go and see a man who knows about wood. So in our search for the perfect jig, we've come to a man who knows about wood. A man who, some may say, loves wood.
Do you want to see my wood?
I would, not only do I want to see it, I quite relish the thought of working with your wood.
Yeah. Well, here it is. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can stroke it. My wood is your wood.
Cool.
It's not the stuff we're going to use. Well, we could.
I don't know.
It's not stiff though, and I know you like stiff wood.
This massive section of wood is going to form the guts of our jig. And Alan, how are we going to prepare this wood?
I'm going to use a cycle, so it's be faster and easier, but more dangerous.
It's mostly due to the danger, isn't it?
Mostly, yeah. Made this as a jig. You clamp it on where you want to cut,
right?
And then you just run the cycle saw straight across, and it cuts it perfectly nice and flush.
So step one for any proper bit of accurate engineering is start with an accurate base. And for such a thing, I went old school. My plan for the front holes is the following. So we're going to drill through using the old holes into this bit of wood. And I think what we'll do is we'll use these two wee blocks to just pad in here to keep the alignment right. It's probably going to need it because I think what we'll do is we'll do one side at a time. We'll finish this outrigger with this one's old geometry to allow us to drill the new one, and then keep that bolted and repeat the process on the other side. Reference to the geometry of where this needs to be. So we're talking about 6 mil off of the true bottom of the chassis. I was hoping we could have just tied this in with another block of wood at the back to keep it all square and then just clip it to there whilst we weld it, but that's not going to work. What I think I might do instead is measure the gap to the ground, and we'll put some spars up, cut exactly to size, that will hold the outermost part of the outrigger in place. What we've done now is, drop my glove, we've jigged the front footwell bolts for the car. So we've got 2 blocks in here, a nice bit of inch thick ply going across, and we have bolted in all 4 of these. So we'll be able to add and remove these, and it means we can tie in the new drilled holes when the new one's on. So we've got a tie in here with a suspension bolt which will go through that. That will hold things in pretty square. Same at the front. I'm just measuring the height off the deck, which in this instance is 605 millimeters to the top, i.e. the lowest point of the seatbelt mount. Now I reckon if we can replicate that with the new one, we'll be on to a winner.
Y to the U to the L to the U.
Let's just cut, shall we?
I don't know, mate. I think you've been precautious enough in looking at the aftermarket replacement kit. There are lots of bolt holes that's going to line a lot of stuff up for you. It's a very, very reasonable kit. Do you think we'll sponsor us?
No. No, I don't think anyone will sponsor us ever, because we're doing this for 3 years and the phone hasn't exactly been buzzing off the hook. Get the angle grinder out. Yeah.
This is his concentrating face.
It's a bit confused face, bro.
Off she comes! Woohoo!
It is now significantly less rusty. Now what we'll need to do is dress all these down so they're flat. And there's a tool for that too.
Is it the grinder?
Yeah, it's the grinder. We've cut off all of the old outrigger. We've buffed all of the contact points for that down so it's nice and flat, and we have started to attach the new outrigger. Now, when you're putting these outriggers on, you're going to have to look for datum points, and this is what we're doing here. So the datum point for a TVR outrigger is the front and the rear wishbone pickup point, and as you can see, I've put full wishbones in, ran through these pickup points and bolted them up. This, believe it or not, is actually enough to more or less hold this completely in place. We have a look down here, we've got very little movement with just 2 datum points put in place. Now, that could be enough to weld, but we still need to also consider what I like to call the flap angle. So what the flap angle is we've got an X, which is this length confirmed. We've also got the Y, which is that way for height confirmed. But we've got a Z axis, which is the angle these can flop on. So we need to support this using some form of jig underneath. And it just so happens that I have a thoroughly technical jig that I've just constructed.
Here's one we prepared earlier.
Indeed. So using our geometry and our measurements off of the old chassis, that gives us our height. And that drop on each side is now matching. So with this in mind, we can now start to look and fill in the gaps. Why do I say fill in the gaps? Well, we've got gaps. So we are going to have to put in some sleeves into these just to take up the slack, so that when we weld it, it will touch the original chassis.
So, darling, why are you making rings for Hodor?
We are extending the chassis slightly by sleeving inserts into them. What will happen is when we come to align it and put it in place, I'll chop it up so it's exactly flush. Two. We've got our sleeves in, we've got our datum point on, we're just going to do a last double check on drop height, and then we're going to start this welding. Look at this, man. Yes, I am cascading. I'm doing these in stages just so I don't warp it too much. Cool, dissipate. Cool. Our first welds have been done.
Congratulations!
A lot more welding to go. Apologies if you can't hear me, but I can barely hear myself. I've got the earplugs in, and there's no point taking them out because I'm just going to leave them in again. So we've got the top halves of all of our outriggers welded up. What we'll do is we'll flip the entire chassis upside down, or right way up, and then finish those welds on the other side. So before we get on with that, I am going to throw on the gussets that tie in the top of the chassis to the bottom. And as we said, these are going to be fillet welded with a wee extension point onto the old chassis. As you can see, there's lots of steel still there without any rust, so there's no point in messing around. So it's going to go on a little something like that. Obviously we'll make sure it's nice and exact before we go any further. In the interest of making sure that everyone has a part to play in this abortion that is a chassis weld, big mechanical loader is going to chop some steel for me. So this is going to be the back gusset thing that goes basically in there.
This bit?
Aye, this bit but no other bit. So yeah, chop ahoy.
It's not brilliant, but I did a thing!
It's obviously looking quite nervous now because it's shortly to be under attack.
Ho 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 ho!
Shut it! That'll do. Let's go home.
Thank you and good night.
Oh, I'm in my happy place, David.
Why?
I'm welding.
This really is the perfect day for gentlemen, isn't it? We're grinding and we're welding.
Do you know what I love about welding? It makes you God. You're the God of the metals. Pure divine creation. As long as it's with metal. After our last fiasco with the valve, I've now made a temporary permanent solution for the
I love the mount. It is efficient, it's simple.
For what happened the last time was the bottle fell off and absolutely trashed the valve. I think we can probably flip this about soon.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll fire as much as I can on it, I'll sand it. Flip it over. Right, so what we're going to do here is some gymnastics, which I think we'll tripod for, because having triangulated all that, welded it all on, I don't think you get as good a welds welding upside down. Well, I certainly don't, so we don't have to, we can just easily rotate this whole chassis, so that's what we're going to do. The old switcheroo. You are the best bitch a unit can have. As we are now stopping for a coffee, we thus have hit a pinnacle point, and that is the halfway mark. Well, would we even call this the halfway mark of the whole project? Probably not. I've completed all of the welds, top and bottom, of all 5 spars for the near side outrigger. So that's looking good. Obviously we've still got to tie in all of the little gussets that secure it to the bodywork, which I think we'll probably need to flip it back round again to do, because they sit in the bottom. But just to punctuate the point of when it's cold and windy and I'm not doing heavy arduous work in here, it's miserable. And when it's absolutely glorious and I want to be driving around in a convertible, I need to sit here with full PPE on and weld, which is just unpleasant. Ow!
That was not a wise move.
I have not thought that through.
No.
What are we feeling, Lance? Should we just hit a montage for the next bit?
Yes.
Let's montage. Done. So we are back on wobble cam. That is a lot of chopping that has been completed. The more eagle-eyed viewers will note that we've not finished chopping. So what's happened is we haven't got this spar as part of the kit. It seems to be an oversight in the supplier and they are sending one out immediately, which is awfully good of them. So hopefully that'll arrive before it causes us any more problems. But without that, I can't do 2 drill holes to triangulate the 2 drill holes I'll need in this. So I've chopped off as much as I can. I've got 1 drill hole done with the jig and I've got 1 here retained so that when this bit comes we can weld it on, stick the jig back on, drill the second hole and then chop this out because we'll have our orientation again. So just a slight setback, but it's not going to cause us too much bother because that's just 2 chops and a buff back and we're good. But the rest of it's all buff back. We've also welded in the gussets. They're all looking all lovely and welded. Also I think I might put an extra wee weld in there just to make it look whole. I've just stuck some primer on it just to kind of keep the rust at bay, but obviously I'll be going for a shop blast anyway, so it matters not. So I've had time to go away, get a haircut by my own hand, so apologies if it looks absolute garbage. And I've also had to think, rather than waiting days and days and days for these, I've just made them. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously we're on a tight deadline, so chopping something out of basic steel, not particularly hard, but more importantly, my new angle grinder arrived. So, you know, it'd be rude not to just go and batter that out and give it a test run. So that's what we've done. So we're back on track. I've just knocked in that one. So now that that's done, we can then drill these 2 holes and finally chop this one off. We have just taken the unit out, turned it around, flipped upside down and brought it back in. The reason being so we can catch the welds on the other side for the last part of this outrigger. So as you can see, we've got to completely fill it here, completely fill it weld down there. We'll probably string a couple of welds on these gussets as well on the other side just to add some strength. Weld there, and then the last 3 other sides to do there. And then we're done. And just like that, she was finished. All welded up. Even got these little seatbelt brackets in the back done. They were pretty easy. I just lined them up to where the old ones sat and slabbered on a hole to weld. That seems to have done the trick. So we are now at a place where we are ready to send this to somebody else to deal with. So as I said, it's going to go for shot blasting and powder coating. So all going well, there shouldn't be too much of a break in what we're doing because they hope to turn that around within a week. Obviously, if you're going to do this, this is probably one of the more involved sections of the RESTO, which is the welding part. Getting access to things, fairly easy. There wasn't a lot of difficult areas to attack. Obviously having the chassis off, it's quite easy to flip it around upside down so you're not having to weld upside down. All of the stuff's fairly simple. The steel was pretty thick. I will say obviously having the gaps in the kit was a bit of a tricky one, but as long as you've got some steel that you can sleeve in to bridge the gaps and you're happy enough using a wee angle grinder to shape out the difference, it's welded on fine. So we've not got much problem there. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time when hopefully we have a fully powder coated chassis. Give us a subscribe, please. Give us a like if you've enjoyed this, and we will catch you on the rebuild. Cheers guys, see you later.